I wrote down a letter, and I'm not too sure if it got to Dylan, Mia, and Jazz, but basically it was telling a variety of stories. I got a ton of stories, I'm sure, for all the years that I've known Vinny. Probably 45 years I've known Vinny, and from when he was a kid, and his big sister Valerie was living on Edgemont, and I visited them with my brother, and Vinny was there, very young and very innocent, and that was my first recollection of him. After that, I think we got into high school, and we went to, Vinny was dating a girl named Dana Barmore, and his sister, Tara Barmore, was with them, and they were going to go to the desert. This is one story that I kind of remember that I was really fond of. And we went to the desert, and we enjoyed our trip there, moonlight walks at desert house of the Barmore's grandparents. And when we got back, I got together with Tara. And so because of Vincent and the women that he always had around him, I got kind of my first date because of him. And then later on in life, maybe a few years later, I met, Vincent was dating another woman named Heather, and after a few weeks to a month, I don't think things worked out with them, and we were living in the Highland Park house, and they always had parties there, and Vinny was a party guy, and with Brent and all, and so they had a party and said, "Hey, where's Heather?" And he said, "Oh, we're not seeing each other anymore." So then I said, "Well, it was pretty interesting. Can I invite her?" So he said, "No problem." He gave me her number, and I invited her, and I started seeing Heather, and we got married. We had a couple of kids, and so because of Vinny and his women around him, I got the benefits of it, So your dad was a very kind person. He wasn't jealous. He didn't have any issues or problems. Just wanted to have people around him, try to help everybody out and be friendly and very helpful and all. Another story that I have is going to Las Vegas with him, and he had that Oldsmobile. It's a Barris car that was kind of a chopped up car with an Oldsmobile and a Cadillac, and he and I decided to go out to Vegas Easter holiday, and his mom was out there in Vegas spending Easter weekend there, and I thought, I knew that she was a very devout Catholic, but she's out in Vegas on Easter, it's really peculiar. So we went out there and with the Oldsmobile, and we had a blast of a time going out there. We had $200 to blow. We blew the $200 pretty quickly, pretty immediately, but then we found out we had saved up enough gas money to go home, and just before we left to go home, we found his rent money in the glove compartment. We had forgotten to drop off his rent money, and so we said, "Hey, we got some money still left," and we dropped off at Caesar's Palace. He started putting down 20, and then it doubled, and we left it there, and it doubled, and by the time half an hour goes by, he won back all of his money, and I was still poor, and I didn't make anything back. But it was worth it. It was very, exciting, and we drove home laughing all the way home, just the luck that he had and all. And then later on in life, I moved over to Maui, and was there for a couple of years, and he came and visited me at Kahului, and I was staying with the family, and he stayed with me in one of the bedrooms, and I didn't think he had that great of a time, but he did ultimately seem to enjoy it. He left within a week or two, went home back to the mainland, And then later on, a few years later, I found out he moved to Maui. So it must have made a big impression on him. And he, after that, I guess, got married, had kids, Mia, Dylan. You know, he had already jazzed before. And he created a whole life for himself, you know, there on Maui. And I was really surprised. And he had made friends, and always made friends everywhere he went. And he became very successful as being a contractor, and had all the boy toys that you want, you know, all of the trucks and boats and whatever, you know, and horses and a great life and all that, you know. And so, you know, I'd meet him periodically, and then we talk story and all that, and I found out that he was so immersed in being in the Hawaiian culture that even though I'm Hawaiian, he was way more Hawaiian than I was. And he had more of the aloha spirit. He was very giving. He was always sharing. Whatever he had, you can have, you know. He was, you know, yeah, he immersed himself into Hawaiian culture. This memorial that I just attended was wonderful. Having a hula dancer and Hawaiian music and all that playing, it really showed, you know, how important the Hawaiian culture was within him. You know, he had the aloha spirit and all. So I don't know. It's very sad that he's passed away, and I'm very happy to have known him. So you do appreciate your father, and he really cared so much about you. The last days that I was there at his home, he talked so much about that. That was one of the most important things for him was to have his kids be with him, and he wanted to make sure that they were well taken care of when he passed away. So, Dylan, Jazz, Mia, you have a very special father.
I met Vince when he was still at Virgil, and basically he hung around with us to go to the hippie side of the street, where people weren't beating each other up quite so often. And I remember riding down the street in the family car, and we were going out to some Mexican restaurant on Sunset, and Vince was pointing out the unmarked cars and showing all the street action, and you know, that guy's doing a drug deal, and this guy's doing that, and this guy's about to get his ass kicked. And all his awareness, all his antennae were up for street survival, basically. And here we're these, like, you know, dopey young kids going, wow, how do you know all this stuff? And he wasn't bragging, he wasn't trying to educate us, he wasn't doing anything other than just being aware of his surroundings. Because in that stage of his life, it was why he was still alive. So he'd come over to our house, and we had this giant bathtub full of comic books. And we'd all lie around smoking pot and eating my dad's food up, and, you know, going through gallons of milk and cookies and just reading comic books and laying around. And I think for Vince, that was like he could just catch his breath. So it was sort of a pause in between different parts of his life where people were going to school, you know, kids were being kids. And I remember being out in the backyard on the swing set that was kind of a little too small for us by then. And Vince and I would just sit on the little rocking part. And I'd be on one side and he'd be on the other. And he'd always try to get it to go high enough to tip over and scare me. So we just spent a lot of that kind of intimate family time together with Vince early in my life. And it just got better from there. Thank you.